Welcome, folks. I am Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hi, guys.
We just got done watching Ford versus Ferrari thanks to 40X. And if you don't know what 40X is, it is an experience to give more life to a movie that you're watching, to enhance it and take it further.
Yeah.
And this honestly was my favorite 40X experience because it was fine-tuned, which is a very appropriate phrase to be using for this particular film. It was fine-tuned for this particular movie where it really felt like you were part of the experience of what was going on, the action, the racing, everything happening and whatnot. It didn't feel like it was detracting from it, but enhancing it between the chair moving, the wind effects, and everything else going on. I don't want to ruin it for you by describing it poorly. Just know that it's a very, very fun, immersive experience, and it's worth a shot. Give it a shot. Thank you, 40X, for getting us in there. This is directed by James Mangold. It's written by Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, and Jason Keller. It stars Christian Bale and Matt Damon. And man, this was a phenomenal movie. This is definitely going in the small library of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah. Just easily. Like, I walked out of that just floored. I couldn't believe how much I appreciated this film. Because, like, you see the ads and you're like, oh, I have a general idea what that experience is going to be like. Mm-hmm. You know, it's gonna be some racing, it's gonna be fun, but I didn't know how tight that script would be. I didn't know how great the acting would be. I didn't know how great the shots were gonna be. And you probably didn't even notice this, but I didn't even know how great the CGI was gonna be. Oh. There was some CGI in there, I noticed it, but I'm like, it's so good that I know most people in here don't know that it's CGI.
Yeah, I was just so immersed in the story and the acting and just everything was so good.
Real quick, and this may have already been indicated by the title of this video, depending on what part of the world you're in, this may not be known as Ford versus Ferrari, but Le Mans 66. So that's a normal thing. Sometimes, if you're in a different part of the world, they'll change up the title to make it more appropriate for whatever. James Mangold is the director on this, and he has had an interesting career himself. I thought worth mentioning real quick. He did Logan and the Wolverine. He also wrote Girl Interrupted and Copland, Walk the Line, and he also directed 310 to Yuma and Walk the Line. But 310 to Yuma is the thing that sticks out to me the most because I listened to his commentary. It's one of the few commentary tracks I've listened to on a DVD Blu-ray thing. He said something that stuck with me that I still repeat to people to this day, which is, you know, you're asking people, and it really shows in this film, you're asking people for 2 hours of their time, and you need to justify that time. You can't waste it. And I try to treat all my videos that way. Like, it's a lot of times my videos are heavily edited because I'm concerned about the experience that you guys have when you're watching it. Unless the conversation is so flowing so incredibly well that it doesn't need editing, I will tend to chop it up to avoid these videos lasting longer than they need to get you guys in and out. So it feels like you had a good time watching it. That's the director who's helming this thing right here. And man, it just moves. For 150 minutes, I was like,
Was it really?
Yeah, I didn't know it was 150 minutes. I only knew it was 150 minutes from looking at this, you know, a few moments ago, and I was actually right there, 2 hours and 32 minutes.
I wouldn't even have thought we spent 2.5 hours at the cinema.
Yeah.
It was so tightly paced.
Yeah, and it spends the time where it really needs to, for the buildup of emotional stuff, for, you know, the action and stuff and whatnot. It's so well paced. It's so yeah, that's the only word to really describe it, because there's like you gotta experience it, man. It's like, that movie is an experience. It's the way my mom described Passion of the Christ. It's just an experience, and I want to watch it again. I want to buy it. I love this movie so much. There's so much to take away from here. I haven't even read the IMDb, which is what I'd like to do. American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference, the laws of physics, and their own personal demons to build a revolutionary race car for Ford and challenge Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. I can spend some time telling you what's involved in this story, like a lot of other more legitimate reviewers on YouTube do, I guess you could say. I don't really like to do that because I have a feeling that you've probably already gotten a lot of that from the trailer, like what the gist of the story is. And to say too much more than that would be giving too much away, in my opinion.
And I think what was really cool for me was going into this with absolutely no idea of what the actual event was. Like, the whole story behind it. I'm not really a racing aficionado by any means. I liked that I went in with fresh eyes, with no idea how the story turned out, because it was just so exciting to have it all unfold in front of me. And the characters were so well written and so well acted across the board. I'm not talking Christian Bale and Matt Damon, who obviously were amazing, as you would expect, but everyone involved, down to like the guy who has a cameo who just goes, huh? You know, like it was just so perfect casting wise. Like I was really drawn into it.
Jon Bernthal, I felt like was worth mentioning because it took me time to get used to him. He had to grow on me because initially when he first came on the scene and became like much well known, especially because of the Marvel stuff, I wasn't sure how I felt about him. I felt like a lot of the same acting was going on. As I saw him more and more, I was like, oh, I actually have grown to love him, especially with watching Punisher season 1. I really like Jon Bernthal, and while I did see some of the same Jon Bernthal isms in this, I still appreciated what he brought to the table.
Yeah.
Like, I felt him in these moments, like what he was going through and what his perspective was on things. I'm like, yeah, I bought it, is the point. Everyone in this film I bought, even the bad guy who I like.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's different little bad guys in this movie. I mean, the bad guys, they're not like villains, but they are villains for the purposes of the story where you've got your protagonists and antagonists, right? They were well-crafted villains, so to speak. Like, one guy in particular, it's the, what do you call that person who's like, in Lord of the Rings, the guy who was whispering in the king's ear?
Oh, yeah.
I forget what you call that character.
Like not quite a confidant, but... Yeah.
But you usually have that character as an archetype where it's like the person who whispers in the king's ear, but he's like the worst person to keep nearby.
Yeah.
Jafar,
Rasputin.
That's like Jafar's a great example of someone who the Sultan kept nearby. Right? And it was like the worst person to keep nearby. That's the kind of character you're dealing with here. And man, you love to hate him. He does such a good job of playing that role. On top of all the things already mentioned, one of the things I love about this movie is it's not just great action, great acting, but there's philosophies that you can take away from this film, like moral lessons. It's almost like a parable in a way because there are these ideas that you can really chew on afterwards and think about and discuss beyond the scope of the story. There are things that are immediately applicable to your life where you go, wow, like it's just, you may have thought of things like that, you may have, or maybe you haven't, but I'm afraid to be too specific because I don't want to ruin the story at all. It hits you on so many levels. It is such a good film. I don't want to call it a perfect movie because there's no such thing as, perfect book, perfect movie, whatever.
Yeah.
But damn it, does it come close. It comes so close, in my opinion. The IMDb score is like
7.7, which is surprising.
Which shocked me, but I'm also a car person. Like, I love watching car stuff, and the thing about it is if you turn to Fast and Furious for that kind of thing, you'll find that with each subsequent film, it stops becoming about cars and it's just an action film. It's a B movie on cocaine, right? and so this is truly a car film. It really goes into the nitty gritty of car racing and whatnot, but it doesn't bog you down necessarily with information, with like Wikipedia information.
Yeah.
It's more to just enhance it. I forgot where it was that I heard this. It may have been Aaron Sorkin, where you want your characters to speak a certain speak so that they feel legitimately part of that world. Mm-hmm. The audience doesn't need to know what that means. They just need to know that the character knows what he's talking about or she's talking about.
And you definitely felt that.
You definitely get that authenticity here. I've been sort of hogging the conversation. I'm sorry. I just love this movie so much.
No, I love it too. And just one thing I want to add is just how thrilling all the racing was. And I don't know if that was also due in part to the really cool stuff that was going on with the 4DX, because I thought they really nailed it, like with all the gear changes and that you kind of felt. But as I was watching it, I was kind of like, wow, they make this 24-hour long car race interesting. Mm-hmm. And I've tried watching Grand Prix, all right?
Yeah.
And I find it kind of boring.
Right.
So the fact that they were able to keep me emotionally engaged, I was like gasping, turning to you, going like, oh no! Like, I was so involved in this movie. Yeah. And I just want to urge all of you guys to go watch it because it was so much fun.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Christian Bale really knocked it out of the park on this one.
Really,
yeah. Matt Damon is, without a doubt, a good actor, but he doesn't always floor me. He doesn't always make me go, wow, but this time he did. And I really loved what he brought to the table here. The bond you feel between Christian Bale and Matt Damon is strong as well. You said something earlier that was definitely worth mentioning, which is across the board you've got great actors here, great characters, and I
every single person.
I think that's worth a second mention because thinking about it again, I'm like, there's a lot of little people throughout this film, including Christian Bale's son in this film, Peter Miles, who's played by Noah Jupe. Just across the board, you got great actors and you're great talent, and It's a solid movie. This feels like what movies used to do. It feels like a very classic film in the way that it's handled, in terms of the structure, the writing, the way things are set up, and then they come back later on and set up here, and then it comes back later on and set up again and comes back later, all the way to the end of the movie. It's constantly setting up and paying off from start to finish, and it's kind of amazing, and it bookends itself very, very well. It's definitely one of the best movies I've ever watched, and I am happy to own it when it comes out on Blu-ray and watch it again in theaters while it's there.
Oh, I do want to mention Christian Bale as well. I mean, I know we said he was pretty damn good, but once again, just the transformation that he does in this, like just his physicality. I mean, he lost a bunch of weight, but that's kind of a Christian Bale
just his
thing
behavior
to do.
in general,
yeah, I just really bought his mannerisms and his movements and stuff like that. I was like, good job, Christian Bale. And Catriona Balfe as well. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, but just, she was incredible too.
There is a fight scene that you see in this film, and I watched, I think it was a Matt Damon interview where he talked about this, because it's this thing that you don't really think about without it being mentioned, but it's Jason Bourne versus Batman. And it's...
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of hilarious because it's not at all that.
No.
It's the most goofy fight ever.
Very raw.
Matt Damon talked about it publicly, so I feel like it's okay for me to, but it was one of the best scenes in the entire film because it's one of those things you did growing up with your sibling, you know? It's very much like that. Like me and Greg used to always wrestle with each other and fight each other growing up, and it definitely felt like that. And afterwards, it's just a lovely film.
Oh, and not only that, but you get like, in addition to all of the emotional highs and lows, you get the guffaws as well. There were so many laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pleasant film as well. So
everything.
You guys definitely check it out if you haven't already decided to do so. And check it out in 40X if that's available near you, because it's definitely worth watching in 40X. It definitely makes it a more immersive experience. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you get notified every time we drop another video. Check out ACHARA KIRK on the social media and her YouTube channel if you feel like doing that. And check out our other reactions, reviews, short films, vlogs, and interviews. I am Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.